So good day mga anak. So our lesson for today is understanding the student's t-distribution or mas kilala natin bilang t-distribution. Let us start with the properties of the t-distribution or what we call the student's t-distribution. Like the normal distribution, it is also a bell-shaped or it is a mound shape and it is symmetric about 0. The shape of the t-distribution is dependent on the sample size n. And also, the standard deviation is greater than 1. Unlike sa normal distribution, the standard deviation is equal to 1. And as n increases, the t-distribution looks more normal distribution. And also, same with the normal distribution, the area under the normal curve is equal to 1. What is a t-distribution? The t-distribution, also known as the student's t-distribution. This is a type of probability distribution that is similar to the normal distribution, with its bell shape but has heavier tails. T-distribution have a greater chance for extreme values than normal distribution, hence the fatter tails. Let's proceed with the difference between the t-distribution and the normal distribution. So first, the normal distribution are used when the population distribution is assumed to be normal, while the t-distribution is similar to the normal distribution just with fatter tails. Both assume a normal distributed population. And also, t-distribution have higher kurtosis than normal distribution. The probability of getting the values very far from the mean is larger with the t-distribution than a normal distribution. Ngayon mga anak, kailan ba natin dapat gamitin yung z-distribution at yung t-distribution? Kailan ba natin dapat gamitin si z-test at si t-test? Para saan nga ba yung dalawang test na yon? Ginagamit natin yon para sa hypothesis testing. Now, you have to ask yourself, do you know the population and the standard deviation? If you still remember, lagi kong binibigyan ng emphasis yung number of your sample size and if your standard deviation is known or unknown. So if the number of sample size is greater than or equal to 30, you will use a normal distribution. And if your standard deviation is known. While if your sample size is less than 30 and the standard deviation is unknown, you have to use t-test or the t-distribution. So ito po yung pinapakita natin ngayon sa ating figure. So, do you know the population standard deviation? If no, you have to use the t-table. If yes, is the sample size greater than 30? If no, you have to use the t-table. If yes, you have to use the z-table or gagamitin natin ay yung z-test. So, we have here the assumptions in computing for the population mean when the standard deviation is unknown. When the number of sample size is greater than or equal to 30 and the standard deviation is unknown, the sample standard deviation can be substituted for the population standard deviation. However, the following assumptions should be met. First, the sample is a random sample and either the number of sample size is greater than or equal to 30 or the population is normally distributed when the number of sample size is less than 30. Let us proceed with the degrees of freedom. The degrees of freedom is denoted by the DF. So those are the number of values that are free to vary after the sample statistics has been computed. So how do we compute for the degrees of freedom? For the degrees of freedom, we have the number of sample size minus 1. Now, let me introduce to you the t-table. So, unlike sa z-table, okay, balikan natin yung ating z-table. Sa z-table, it consists of the z-values and the areas under the normal curve. So, yung first two digit ng ating z-score or ng z-value, matatagpuan natin sa left side under the z. And then, sa right side ng z or dun sa upper part, nandun yung third digit nung ating z-score. And then, dun sa nasa loob ng table, nandun yung areas under the normal curve. While here in the t-table, ano ang meron tayo dito sa t-table? We have the degrees of freedom sa left side. And then, ito po, yung nasa loob, hindi po siya area. Okay. Ang tawag po natin dito ay t-values or the critical values. Those are the t-values or yung tinatawag nga nating critical value. Nasaan po yung area? Ito po yung area natin. Those are the areas under the normal curve. So, kung mapapansin nyo, meron tayo ditong one tail and two tails. Always remember, mga anak, our default bell-shaped curve or ang default area natin ay alpha, di ba? So, sa two-tailed po tayo. Kapag po two-tailed, alpha po ang gamit natin. Yun po yung area sa two-tailed alpha. Let's say, for example, we have 90% level of confidence. The alpha is 10%. So, we have 0.10. Okay po. Sa two-tailed po natin matatagpuan yon. While, sa one-tailed po, sa one-tailed naman, we have alpha over 2. So, if we have a 90%, we have 0.05 as alpha over 2. Yun po yung makikita natin dito. Okay, so if we have 0.10, we have 0.5. Now, if your level of confidence is 90, matatagpuan mo naman siya dito sa bottom part ng ating t-table. Nasaan yung 90? Ito po. Okay po. So, nandito po yung 90% level of confidence. And if you still remember, dun sa ating normal distribution, nung kumuha tayo ng confidence interval estimate, we also use the z-value at a certain level of confidence, hindi ba? Dito po natin siya makikita. Ito po yung mga z-values natin. So, the z-value at 90%, kung aalala nyo, ang na-compute natin ay 1.645. If we have a 95% level of confidence, the z-value is 1.96. And if we have a 99% level of confidence, ang na-compute po nating z-value is 2.576. Okay, dito rin po makikita o matatagpuan ito sa ating t-table. Now, how do we determine the t-values or the critical values? In order to compute the t-value, a t-distribution table is shown, which consists of the degrees of freedom, which are the numbers at the leftmost column, and alpha, which is some of the special areas at the topmost row, at the t-values, which are located at the right of the degrees of freedom, and below alpha. So, our first step to look for the corresponding t-value, we have to look for the corresponding level of significance, which is the alpha, which is located at the column header. Next, we have to look for the corresponding number of the degrees of freedom in the first column. And then for the last step, we have to look for the intersection of the level of the significance, which is the alpha, and degrees of freedom to get the value of the t-value or the critical value. Ngayon, mga anak, let us try to practice how to determine the t-value using the t-table. So, we have here a table. Ang given sa atin ay the number of sample. So, ito yung ating sample size. We have the level of confidence and we have to determine the level of significance and then the t-value. Now, let us answer number 1. If we have a number of sample size of 14, so therefore, the degrees of freedom is n minus 1. So again, degrees of freedom is equal to n minus 1. So we have 14 minus 1 is 13. So the given degrees of freedom is 13 and the level of confidence is 90%. So therefore, ano po ang ating alpha? So what is 1 minus 90? So we have 0.10 as our alpha. San po natin ngayon makukuha yung t-value? So now let us use the t-table. So again, the level of confidence is 90%. So therefore, the alpha is 0.10. And then the degrees of freedom is 13. So saan natin hahanapin yon? First, tignan muna natin yung degrees of freedom. We have 13. And then, we have to look for the header, which is 0.10 as the alpha. So, saan tayo titingin? Since wala naman sinabi kung one-tailed or two-tailed, at alam naman natin na ang level of confidence is 90%, so dito po tayo titingin sa two-tailed. So, we have 0.10. Ito po ngayon yung 0.10. Okay. Then, last step, hanapin daw natin yung ating intersection. Nasaan kaya yung intersection nila? Okay. So, therefore, the t-value is 1.771. Therefore, the t-value when the degrees of freedom is 13 with a 90% level of confidence is 1.771. Mga anak, pwede rin nating ma-determine yung t-value by looking at the confidence level dun sa bottom part ng ating level t-table. So, kung mapapansin nyo, nandito yung level of confidence, diba? Since given yung level of confidence, which is 90%, ito po yung 90% natin. So, dito po kayo titingin. Ayan. So, kung nasaan po yung 90%. So, since pinutol ko lang to, idugtong natin dito. Si 90% ay 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, nandito po yung 90% natin. Okay po. And then, tignan natin yung degrees of freedom. Kung saan ulit yung intersection nila, that is our t-value. So, yung iba pong estudyante or yung iba nyong classmate, mas nadadalian din sila na tignan yung bottom part, which is the confidence level, to determine the t-value. Or, pwede rin naman na kunin nyo yung alpha. Dito kayo sa area titingin. Kunin nyo yung alpha. Basta tandaan nyo anak, pag alpha ang titignan nyo, dito kayo sa two tails. Pero kung ang titignan nyo ay alpha over 2 sa one tail, since parehas pa rin naman, because if your alpha is 0.10, your alpha over 2 is 0.05. Parehas din naman. Doon yung nga lang siya titignan sa one tail. Ngayon mga anak, let us answer another example. So, kuha naman tayo ng medyo mataas na number of sample size. So, kunin natin tong 27. Sagutan natin tong number 4. So, if the number of sample size is 27, our degrees of freedom is 26. So, again, the degrees of freedom is equal to n minus 1. And then, with a level of confidence of 80%. So, if your level of confidence is 80%, your alpha is 0.20. Yung nakuha natin na degrees of freedom is 26. The level of confidence is 80%. And then, the alpha is 0.20. So, hanapin natin ngayon yung kanyang corresponding t-value. So, unahin naman natin ngayon dito tayo sa bottom part. Tumingin. Okay. So, hanapin natin yung level of confidence. That is 80%. Okay. Then, 80%, tignan din natin yung degrees of freedom. We have 26. Ano yung kanilang intersection? Nakuha natin ay 1.315. Same with, kung titignan naman natin yung alpha. Ang gamitin naman natin ngayon ay yung areas dun sa upper part. So, ang alpha natin ay 0.20. So, again, dito po tayo titingin sa two tails. We have 0.20. Okay po. Ngayon, hanapin natin yung kanilang intersection, yung 0.20 and then yung degrees of freedom natin na 26. Ang makukuha nga kaya natin is 1.315. So, let us see. So, we have here 0.20. Pang ilan ng 0.20 natin? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, dito sa taas, we have 1.00, 0.50, 0.40, 0.30, and 0.20. Okay, so dito po yung panlima. Kunin natin yung intersection nila ng 26. We will also get 1.315. Naintindihan po. Ibig sabihin, kahit ang gamitin din naman natin ay yung bottom part, which is the confidence level, and then yung alpha natin dito sa taas, parehas pa rin naman yung makukuha natin na t-value. So, kung saan kayo mga anak mas makapagsagot or komportableng makakuha ng t-value or ng ating critical value, yun po ang gamitin. Parehas lang naman po ang kalalabasan. So therefore, the t-value when the degrees of freedom is 26 with a level of confidence of 80%, the t-value is 1.315. So the rest, mga anak, we have number 2, 3, and 5 to 10. Pakisagutan po and then i-upload po sa ating GC. Same with your classmates po na nakapag-send na dun sa ating GC. Kasi sila yung mga umattend na nung ating virtual class. Okay po. So, pakisend na rin po for your additional points. Now, let us have more examples in the t-value. So let us have this situation. A researcher recruits 20 subjects for a study and conducts a one-tailed t-test for a mean using an alpha level of 0.05. So as you have noticed, in this situation, it is specified that we used a one-tailed t-test. So therefore, the alpha that is given is for one-tailed. So kapag ginamit na natin yung t-table, doon tayo titingin sa one-tail. At doon natin hahanapin yung 0.05. Now, again, the number of sample size is 20. So, therefore, the degrees of freedom is n-1. We have 19. So, hanapin muna natin yung 19. So, we have here the degrees of freedom, which is 19. And then, the alpha level is 0.05. So, since one-tailed, saan natin siya hahanapin? Dito. Okay po. So, we have 0.05. So, nandito po si 0.05. So, kunin natin yung kanilang intersection. So, therefore, the t-value is 1.729 when the alpha level of the one-tailed test is 0.05 and with the degrees of freedom, 19. Next, we have a researcher recruits 18 subjects for a study and conducts a two-tailed t-test for a mean using an alpha level of 0.10. So this time, ang gamit naman ni researcher ay two-tailed t-test. Okay. So again, the number of sample size is 18. So therefore, the degrees of freedom is 17. So, n-1. And then, the alpha level is 0.10. So, hanapin po natin. Saan natin hahanapin? Dito naman natin siya hahanapin sa two-tails. Kasi, ang given daw ay two-tailed t-test. So, we have here a 0.10. And the degrees of freedom is 17. Then, look for their intersection. So, therefore, the t-value is 1.740.